has an expectation. God has a plan to see his expectation met. But the generation must come in alignment. And we say yes to Jesus. Ibarasia tabo mekababa kamande kaidatos. We withhold nothing, Jesus. You want a generation, we offer you one. Let the waitings come to an end. Okay. So it's good to be back home. The itinerant phase of my labors will be more active this year, but I'm going to trust the Lord to do all I can not to miss any meeting. So if it means having to travel back home on Tuesdays and Sundays to be in church, I would do my bit. I'm also going to trust God to run a lot of spontaneous meetings this year. So you may do well to be on our social media channels, so that if in the middle of the night a meeting is announced, you can be around. School is closing on Monday, I heard. How many of you are traveling? Okay, it's not wrong to travel, but if you're around, please, let's keep fellowshipping. I'm going to it's a time that I'm not going to be too busy. Most of my campus meetings are cancelled, even though churches in the same cities are trying to have meetings at the same time, but I'm going to be more available. So we're going to trust the Lord to have more teaching sessions, have more interactive sessions, have more prayer sessions, so that we can cover up on the deficit of spiritual knowledge that we have encountered. While the things that are going on in the nation are going on, I do not want us to think that all that heaven is doing about our nation is an election. It's a trap. So while we put in the prayer requirement, not because we are afraid, but because we are supplied with timely instruction, I want you to keep growing. The end of the shaking in our nation is because a revival is coming. A revival is coming. It's an agenda that God did not abandon, because there is going to be a change of government. Let me share a thought with you. I'll share it in a more elaborate way in writing. At about 11:39, and maybe I should say this, there is a portal of communication at the front of, what's the name of that lounge opposite Alata? Fishbar. There's a portal of communication there. So if you want to hear from God and you hang, you can walk around that place. Are you with me? I'm praying. It's a massive one. The ease of communication there is very strong. So I'm just instructing you. At about 11:39, I had to do some stuff in school, so I was driving. And the Lord said to me, He said, say to my people, I'm not reading, I'll put it up tonight, but He said, say to my people that they believe in my ingenuity, that they rest in my ingenuity. Now, I need somebody to check that word, ingenuity. He that cometh to God must believe that God is. And God is saying concerning our nation, Nigeria, He wants to function by that reality. Ingenuity. What does it mean? Now, ingenuity is the ability to solve problems, especially difficult ones, often in original, clever, and inventive ways. It's the ability to solve problems, many times difficult problems. So God is saying the Nigerian problem is a difficult problem. The prophetic dimension or the prophetic expression in our nation currently has a lot of guesswork in it. If you have stayed with God, God is not speaking as much as we are hearing. Are you with me? Some people are close to the corridors of power, so they have subjected themselves to a lot of permutations. God is not saying much. For the transition in Nigeria, God is hiding himself. It's a conscious thing. It is so that no man can draw glory from the outcome of our nation. So he's saying to us, you may not know too much. You may not see too much. Some of your visions in this season may be out of your fear. So you see them burning tires because you're already afraid. You have listened to news that they said they will fight someone. You can see bloodshed, and it may not be from him. It may be your fears creating dreams. I'm not saying that those things are not possibilities. I'm just saying that there are pictures that are being painted from the news, pictures that are being painted from the motions of human hearts. God consciously is not saying too much. And it's in scriptures that God hides himself. So, but he's saying in spite of the many layers of knowledge that we cannot seem to penetrate, even with much intercession, we should rest in his ingenuity. I can solve problems, I can solve difficult ones, and I can solve them in conventional ways. I can also be creative about solutions. Rest in my ingenuity, believe in my ingenuity. Okay, about 30 minutes after that, because I stayed meditating and in prayer, he said to me, he said, let my people know that I will solve the issues of your nation in my own way and in my own time. He did not reveal to me how he will solve them, so the ways was not unveiled. However, he said to me, this is my time to solve the problems of your nation, but I will solve it in my own way. So we want to rest. And as you pray, don't be tempted to prescribe to God how you want the solutions to happen. Don't be tempted to do that. Say, God, let Sheyi Makinde win so that they will keep paying salaries. You don't know what his second term will look like. All of us, any sane Nigerian, has a candidate in his heart. Many of us, because of our knowledge, whether prophetic or social, have a preferred candidate for the presidential election. Essentially, I'm not doing much about the state. There's not much that's going to change, so rest. But for the presidential elections, we know that something major must happen. It must not get worse. So we have a preferred candidate, and many of you know who our preferred candidate is. We are not ashamed to say it's our preferred candidate, but we also understand that as at this morning, the negotiations for who will be president are still on. Because those who think they have been disfavored are still paying prices, and will pay prices till the morning of the election. So things can still change. That's why intercession must continue. People will still die before the elections because blood sacrifices will come into that day. And it means if the voice of blood is stronger than the voice of the praying church, there are still things that can move. So it's not certain. Quickly, I gave a parable in Makoti, and I think I need to give again to help those who are praying here and online. There was a promise. Now, this is more elaborate than Makoti. In Genesis chapter 12, God happened upon the house of a certain man called Abram. And God, in bringing him into the covenant, initiated an invitation. Get thee out of thy country, out of thy kindred, out of thy father's house, into a land that I will show you. So that Abraham could make an informed movement, because we are rational beings. What is in this thing for me? Verse 2. God now began to bait him. And you are going to see how this works when we get into the theme of the night. So the Lord said, and I means if you do what I want you to do, you are not going to lose obeying me. I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee. So a man who was termed to be sterile, impotent, God was promising him that out of him will not come a man, but a great nation. Not just a nation. It was going to be one that will be great. 2, God said, I will bless you. It means I will put something upon your life that will make you a source in the earth. People will not just look up to heaven to receive. They can tap into what you possess and they can be blessed. That's the construct of Abraham's blessings are mine. So we are blessed of God, but you can also receive of Abraham. Are you with me? 3, and make thy name great. So you will not require a title to sound important. Abraham will pass enough for important. That's 3. And then the last thing God says, thou shalt be a blessing. 4 things to make a man do 3 things. So God always goes beyond you. Are you with me? 3 requests, 4 consequences. Next verse. So God goes ahead to say, if anybody blesses you, I will bless them. If anybody curses you, I will curse them. And indeed, this is number 7, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So what God gave to Abraham was what? The blessing. Is anybody confused? The blessing. What Abraham gave to Isaac was what? The blessing. One thing. What Isaac gave to Jacob was what? The blessing. Now, from Isaac to Jacob, the blessing began to attract utterance. So we could now come into the understanding of what the blessing will look like in expression. What Jacob gave to his 12 sons was also the blessing. But in Jacob, there were streams of the blessing that were advertised. That in seeing all the families of the earth being blessed, I will need to run through 12 streams. And so Jacob stood in Genesis chapter 49 and began to speak to his sons what their lives will become. Each of them was supposed to carry a contributory stream to ensure that all of the nations of the earth are blessed. Are you getting me? It didn't start as a separate stream. It started as one river. In Jacob to his sons, it became 12 streams. So let's go to Reuben and Judah. Stay with me. Because I'm not a prophet, I can't see like Victor. I know Victor can see everything. But I study scriptures and I want all of you to come into the word of God, because there's no new thing that is happening. So, a man finds out it's my assignment to communicate a blessing, but I'm going to give it by words. I'm going to tell them what their lives should be. I'm going to tell them what the blessing will look like in each of their lives. That was the concept of Genesis chapter 49. It was an emotional delivery, not totally spiritual. Because he looked at Reuben. I said, you are the beginning of my strength, but you hurt me. You entered into your father's chamber. You took advantage of my concubines. You will not excel. And we came into the understanding of what that word means. That's a curse word. It means the reality of Reuben could no longer be drawn from the blessing. Are you with me? His men were designed to be few, and if your men are few, it means because you lack men, after a while the ability to procreate will diminish, and then that tribe will fade. But because it was a man that instructed it, a man showed up who he called in stature in the name Moses, and said, let Reuben live and not die. It means there are things that are determined in heaven, but there are entities that God gives government to in the earth to give what is of heaven to men. And if a man gave what is of heaven to a man, another man can come and thwart it. Judah, verse 10. Judah, verse 10. The scepter. There was going to be a king tribe in Israel, but God did not name the king tribe. I'm saying that Jesus was not determined by God to come from the tribe of Judah. In thy seed, it could be any tribe. Would the nations of the earth be blessed? But I don't know what was about Judah. I don't know what Jacob saw. I knew it was prophetic, but Jacob showed up and said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. I want you to give ear to the utterances. Shall not. It means there will be contentions. But it will be here, nor a lawgiver from between his feet. And it will be sustained until Shiloh comes. That's one of the Old Testament names for Jesus. It means the one to whom it belongs. He was speaking about the seed, because it was not to seeds, it was to a particular person. So Judah will hold the scepter until Jesus comes. And unto him, not Judah, but unto Shiloh, shall the gathering of the people be. So what we are doing tonight is a fulfillment of the utterance of Jacob. Are you with me? But a day came in Israel when Israel was faced with a battle, and then a prophet showed up in Israel who had a CV. It was the CV of one whose utterances cannot fall to the ground without being fulfilled. The enemies of Israel were invading her. The king of Israel from the tribe of Benjamin was agitated, but Samuel did not show up. What are you doing, Samuel? Why have you stayed in Ramah? And then Samuel shows up. The king was afraid. Israel was running away. And then he began to do the sacrifice, and Samuel came and said, if you had stayed, if you had waited for me, then the kingship will have been to you and your generation after you. It meant that Samuel had the stature to undo the utterances of Jacob. And he was in a negotiation room, but the negotiation took too long, and those who were in the open decided to begin to act because they could not hear what was going on behind the curtain. Sometimes the negotiations for who will sit on the throne, they go beyond the limit of human beings. You see, but God is not agitated, because if you crown Adonijah, am I right, as the new king, there is a horn in the wilderness in a tent, and anybody that oil stays on is the king of Israel. So Bathsheba said, you have not kept your promise. He said, get me the horn from the tabernacle. And they brought the horn, and in secret they anointed a king, and it was stronger than the one that was anointed in the open. Negotiations. The church must keep praying, because I've come to announce again that the oil will still change the outcome. And they are holders of the oil. We are not a people cursed. Life has matured so much in the spirit in our nation that there are things that can be changed. I'm saying you can anoint a man in a hotel room, and because of him they can shift the date of elections. Because of him they can scatter this whole thing, and then we'll rearrange it again, because a man was anointed in the hotel room. The events ahead will show where we are going. Amen. So keep praying. There's so much that will still happen in these 2 weeks if we pray. So much. I have not seen anybody die. No. I know there are prophecies that some people die. I have not seen anybody die. Death is not a good way for God to shame people. Keep them alive. But there's a lot that is going on. So let's engage praying over our nation a lot in tongues. Don't join speculators. Just pray a lot in tongues. There are patterns in scriptures that things can be altered. Things can be altered. We give you praise, Jesus. In 4 minutes, can we just bless the Lord for his hand that is upon our nation, for the things that he will do. A few weeks ago, he said through one of our fathers, he said it will come by interruptions and it will come by interventions. Interruptions and interventions. So there are timetables that will be scattered. Selah. But ultimately the counsel of God will stand over our nation. We are not afraid. Whatever the enemy throws at us will only work for the redemption of this nation. For we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. Nigeria has survived. Yes, yes, yes. Darkness knows that we are that mutant nation. Nothing quenches our resolve. There is a promise that was built into our fabric as a nation, that we will be players in the end time revival, and the gates of hell will not prevail over this nation. This nation has been serially dedicated to the Lord, and he can keep what has been committed to him. Oh, the apostles understood the protocols of consecration, and so they prayed. For I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep all, including a nation, including a land and his people, including the throne of our presidency, to keep all which I have committed unto him against that day. And tonight we remind you, oh God, that serially in intercession we have committed Nigeria into your hand. You will keep. You will keep. You are that God that can keep men. You can keep families. You can keep a nation. You can keep her throne. You can keep her people in balance. It has been 1 month of hardship. It will have broken any nation. But we understand the hand that keeps us. Oh, we acknowledge you. We acknowledge you. We acknowledge you. We acknowledge your workings in our nation. We acknowledge your workings in our nation. Because we march on. The church marches on. The church marches on. And for the sake of the remnant church in Nigeria, we are confident that you are not that sort of God that wastes the righteous with the wicked. You are a righteous judge. You will do no such thing. To this end, you are multiplying the numbers of the righteous in the land so that the land can survive. And we know that this land has survived. We give you praise and glory. Our cry tonight is that you do what only you can do. Do it your way. We will wait upon you. And in gratitude, we will return when you have done what only you can do. Blessed be your holy name. In Jesus' name we have prayed. I was sharing in Aba on Friday night that our recovery as a nation will require 2 kinds of people. First is a company of intercessors. 2 is a sufficient number of righteous men. I was sharing with them that an intercessor intercedes using a position of a bank of favor. That's more explanatory. A bank of favor that he has with God. Because when your intercession is for territories, you come as a negotiator. And every negotiator starts with favor, then he now uses money. That's how they negotiate for things. It's me now. Mr. Taiwo, this is your shoe. I like the shoe. Thank God we're not the same size, but the shoe is fine. Are we all in? Are we all in? Okay, not yet. Okay, so I can start with you want to sell this shoe, and then he says, because a very expensive shoe, he says 500,000. Don't laugh, it's expensive. So he says 500,000. I'll first start with Mr. Taiwo. It's me. Oh, what am I doing? I'm using my bank of favor with him to open the gates of negotiation. We do it with God. That's why the intercessor must sustain a life that by the supply of graces is above blame. It's me. Oh, he now says, okay, because it's you, because I know I have a lot of favor with you. He says, just bring 80,000. I can say, but it's me. Oh. Say, Oda, bring 40,000. To own the shoe, I will need to go beyond favor. I will need to produce a currency. Are you with me? I can give him old notes now. You say, I don't want old notes. So I need to begin to look for new notes. So an intercessor requires first a bank of favor. 2, he requires a currency. And intercessors, negotiators, they don't spend money. They spend human beings. They spend righteous men. That's the currency. So Abraham was able to push God from layer to layer in favor. The reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was not preserved was that there was no righteous men to spend. So somebody came in that and said, spend my life and reap the nations for you. So I looked at the guy, the minstrel. I said, how many righteous men do you know? Are you a righteous man? Because you are a worthless currency in the day that territories are being negotiated if you are not righteous. Emmanuel, how many righteous friends do you have? So God says, I will save Nigeria if you can produce 200 men. Do you know 200 righteous men? So we have many praying people across the territories of our nation, but the righteous people are, even in a city of 200 churches, you may not be able to produce 50 righteous men. It means it's not every pastor that is even righteous. So there must be an emphasis. I'm still on the nation. There must be an emphasis on righteousness. It is the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man that makes power available, or that avails much, that does much. So we need to begin to align ourselves with the righteousness, and not just possessed righteousness, which was a gift of the Christ, but active righteousness. I was telling my wife this morning, one Yahoo boy sent me a message yesterday night, very late in the night. He said, can you send me the account number? I want to put money in your building. I just laughed. Say, listen, I will have done prayer meeting for Yahoo boys long ago. They will pay gate fee 200k, and I know that God answers my prayer. Because 200k, if we do 200k, and that's not too much money to Yahoo boy. If we open the gate to 200 of them, that's about 40 million. Am I right? So what am I looking for? We'll finish the building. I'll now buy one Jeep, so that in the day of the opening, I can buy one Jeep. It's late. You know why those things are happening? Because the enemy is seeking to reduce the number of righteous men in territories. He wants to corrupt everybody that is standing for Jesus. I know there's no money in town, but there must be limits, boundaries beyond which you cannot look for money. Are you getting my point? Now, if it means crossing this line, I'll stay here. I will wait and I will stay. You can't cross it. I know you want to buy clothes and you want to buy shoes. Some people celebrate Valentine. Maybe the sister is angry already because you have not sent anything, and you are thinking that the relationship will break tonight. There must be boundaries beyond which you must not go. That If it's consecration that will break the relationship, it's a safe zone. Because if you are cutting when commitment is not yet by an oath, we are still breaking consecration. When we now cross and we can't come out again, you don't know that. It's not a house you entered, it's a dog pen. You know what they call a dog pen? That one that rain used to fall on, where the dog hides. That's what you enter. So I want us to trust the Lord to stay within boundaries. Stay within boundaries. Share as much as possible, but don't cross lines, because we need to transact with a required number of righteous men. Every city has a number. If you pray long enough, the Lord will tell you. Nigeria needs a lot more righteous men. A lot more righteous men. Even in ministerial circles, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of corruption. And there's still so much that is coming because of survival. May God show us mercy. And help us to escape these things. That's Matthew 24, right? These things that will come upon the world. May we be blessed to escape them. All right. Thank you, Holy. God has an expectation. God has a plan to see his expectation met. But the generation must come in alignment. And we say yes to Jesus. Ibarasia tabo mekababa kamande kaidatos. We withhold nothing, Jesus. You want a generation, we offer you one. Let the waitings come to an end.